Welcome back to the Everygirl podcast. How are my girls doing this week? I hope you are romanticizing your life, working on our monthly theme of alignment, coming back to yourself. I was in Charleston last week. I last minute went on a family trip to go see my new little nephew, who's the cutest thing in the world. So I feel like I apologize to you guys all the time for my voice sounding like shit. I guess that is in line with our vibe of this summer to have a lot of fun. If you were here last summer, you remember Em and I talking about tomfoolery summer. Like we are rebranding summer to be our tomfoolery era. And I think because of the amount of times I have lost my voice this summer, hopefully I am achieving that. But I know it doesn't make it good for you guys. But this time it's not my fault. Okay. My family was so nice and planned this super surprise, gorgeous, special 30th birthday dinner for me. My birthday's not until late September, but we are not all going to be together then. So my sister and my mom and my family planned this amazing Little Mermaid, but like adult chic Little Mermaid themed dinner party. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law surprised me and drove all the way there. So it's not my fault because it was a surprise, okay? So I couldn't plan on the fact that I'd be drinking so much wine all night and then would lose my voice. Even like a week later, is still feeling slash sounding like shit. So I'm sorry, maybe yes to tomfoolery, but like I need to maybe figure out a way that my voice doesn't get affected every time I drink alcohol or stay up late. Or it could have also been like singing until 3 a.m. with my cousins, but that's neither here nor there. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are back for a highly requested part 2 episode. We are diving deeper into the healthiest habits of the healthiest women in the world. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, my hair looks a little crazy, but I'll scrunch it up and like go with like a natural wave vibe, like Mamma Mia, Amanda Seyfried, like that kind of vibe. Instead, it kind of looks like my grandma would have yelled at me for having this hair, and she would have given me what we call her torture brush, where she would have just really wanted to brush this rat's nest out. So, anyway, we are a mess, but we're a happy mess. And I'm so happy to be here and talking to you. And we have a lot to get into. If you missed part 1, first of all, I highly recommend you going back and listening. It is episode 192. But here's the quick refresher. I am not going to be talking about the generic drink more water and go to the gym advice. We went way beyond that. We unpacked science-backed, lifestyle-driven habits from 2 very different but equally fascinating sources. Women in the world's blue zone populations, which are living the longest lives on the planet. There's the highest concentration of centurions of people living past 100 years old, and women in the modern biohacking space who are experimenting with cutting edge strategies to improve their longevity and their quality of life to feel their very best. Like we want to learn from what are they doing? What can we borrow from them to feel even better in our lives? The reason that I love this approach and this topic is because wellness is not supposed to be about looking a certain way or whatever wellness happens to be trending on TikTok. It's really about intentionally building a life and a body that allows you to show up fully for everything else that you care about. Because health isn't just preventing illness and symptoms. Health is your energy source, your creativity, your energy, your presence, your vitality, your vivaciousness, your joy. It is literally the fuel that powers your relationships, your career, and your dream life. Health is the tool to get anything you want out of this life. So today I am bringing you another list of daily habits that are specific, unique, and most importantly, very doable for you. We are talking about practices that you can easily integrate into your everyday life, some that are rooted in centuries old tradition, others that are rooted in cutting edge research, but all of them are designed to help you feel more present, alive, and well. So let's get into part 2 of the daily habits of the healthiest women in the world. Because if you thought part 1 was good, just wait until you hear what I've got for you today. The first daily habit is a tip that comes from one of the longest living populations in the world. It is the Okinawan practice of hara hachi bu. I definitely butchered that. I'm so sorry. That basically translates to something like eat until you're 80% full. And this idea is so ingrained in Okinawan culture that it's kind of like a saying that you say before eating, like how we say cheers or bon appetit. And researchers found that this principle was one of the reasons that Okinawans have some of the lowest rates of obesity and chronic disease on the planet. And here's why. By stopping eating before you feel really full, completely stuffed, you give your body enough time to register satisfaction. Satisfaction is like your body is telling you, we've had enough nutrients, we no longer need any more. Like your body letting you know it has consumed enough nutrients in order to fulfill its needs. And this signal actually can take anywhere from about 15 to 20 minutes after you've eaten. From a science perspective, this is huge for hormonal balance. Because when we overeat, which means like we are eating more than our bodies actually need, our bodies spike insulin, leptin, and ghrelin in ways that can really mess with hunger cues long term and also impact our glucose levels and therefore affect our hormonal health. Chronic overeating can also cause inflammation, it can slow down digestion, and it can put unnecessary stress on all of your organs. And what I really want to stress here is it's not just about calories and losing or gaining fat, it's about your cellular health. When you overeat, aka you're eating more than your body needs, all of your body's energy has to go into digesting. And kind of like your body is preoccupied digesting your food, which then prevents it from being able to do the really important like housekeeping work that your body needs to do. But when you eat to a very comfortable point, you feel satisfied, but you're not overstuffed, that basically gives your body more time after it's digested that food to be able to get back into repair mode because your body has to either be in digestion mode or repair mode. So if you have more food to digest, your body's spending more time in digestion mode instead of being able to spend more time in repair mode. Basically, when your body doesn't have to focus on digesting, when it's already digested all of the food, it switches back into repair mode, which is essentially your cell's natural cleanup crew. Your cells basically like recycle damaged parts and essentially help your cells run more efficiently. So, in addition to obviously wanting to maintain a healthy weight for your body, it also has a lot to do with the stress you're putting on your organs and allowing your cells to be able to fully repair. So, eating what your body needs for the most part instead of overstuffing ourselves, which I think a lot of us, myself included, are very much in the habit of doing, is so essential for so many different functions of the body. Now, I'm super against weighing every bite of food or restriction or counting calories. I also am really not big on looking at serving sizes. Like, you mean to tell me a box of pasta knows how much my body needs more than my body? No, absolutely not. I have a conspiracy theory that this idea of serving sizes is really just a way that the world trains us not to trust our own bodies. So, what I love about this 80% rule, this idea of eating until you're around 80% full instead of getting all the way to when you're really stuffed, is that it's intuitive and it's based off of your body's individual needs. One day you might need more calories based on your exercise, where you are in your cycle. Your body might need more nutrients, so you will eat more food. Other days you might need less. Your body looks different every single day. So, this idea of 80% rule is not like a serving size rule that doesn't allow for your body's individual needs. And it also is checking in with your body. It's honoring the intuition and the wisdom that your body already has to tell you when it no longer needs any more nutrients and it's already had enough. The 80% rule is really about respecting your body. So, in order to practice this 80% rule, it simply requires you to just be more mindful and present during meals. Every time you eat anything, you can use it as a meditative practice. Really take the time to fully enjoy your food. Like, what does it smell like? How does it really taste? Enjoy each bite and then check in with your body consistently. This might take a lot of practice when we have been so programmed to eat really mindlessly. We're eating in front of the TV or at our desk. But I swear to you, it gets a lot easier and more habitual and even a little more mindless the more and more you practice. Okinawans also tend to eat from smaller bowls and plates, which naturally leads to smaller portions without feeling deprived. There's a really famous study that actually illuminates this from Cornell's Food and Brand Lab that shows that people served the same amount of food on smaller plates feel more satisfied than those that were served the same amount of food on bigger plates. And they naturally just stop eating sooner. So that's another little psychology hack. The amount of food we eat is actually so psychological. Some of us were really raised to feel guilty if we wanted to go back for seconds or if, what we were eating didn't look the same as like what the serving size on the label told us we were supposed to eat. Even if our bodies were telling us that the amount it needs to feel satisfied is to go back for seconds or is more than the serving size, we are wired to feel guilty about that. Some of us, kind of on the other hand, were raised to feel like we had to eat everything, like the clean plate club. Or even there's like this, like, oh, there's such a small amount of food left on my plate. I don't want to waste food. So even though I'm full and like no longer actually want it, I'll just eat it because I don't want to waste food, or that would be too much to put away these a few bites for leftovers. But let me tell you, if you are either no longer enjoying the food or your body no longer needs the nutrients, you feel full and satisfied, it is a waste, whether it's in the garbage or in your body. Or I'm also a really big fan of saving leftovers, no matter how small. Like, I will literally save if there are two noodles left, if it's like three bites of food, I will save it and maybe the next day have it as a snack or even like add more food to it to create another meal. Because sometimes that is like the psychological trick because I do go into the I don't want to waste food mentality. So just that little switch of like, okay, if I really feel like throwing the food away would be a waste, which by the way, it's a waste if it's in your body or in the trash, but I have that ingrained in me. So, okay, I will save these two bites of food and I will eat it the next day. The important part is coming back to your body to listen to what your body actually needs instead of these either like external rules or ingrained ideas that are impacting the way that we fuel our bodies. So, the 80% rule is helpful for so many reasons, but mainly because it is training you to eat for your body and your body's needs rather than all of these psychological factors that really determine and have been ingrained in us how much food we're eating. And when you eat until you're 80% full, you'll not only feel lighter physically, you will have more energy, less of that afternoon slump. You might even start to look forward to meals more because you will be mindful and present during them. You're eating from a place of intention rather than being on autopilot. The next habit is building daily intentional connection into your routine. This comes from an amazing pattern that researchers found in every single blue zone. The healthiest, longest living women in the world are deeply embedded in extremely strong social networks. It's not, just a monthly book club or a weekly family dinner, although those things are amazing, but it's deep connection every single day. In Okinawa, there is a concept of moai, which is a lifelong social circle that people are born into, where they're basically committed to each other's emotional well being for their entire life from when they're born until the day that they die. In Sardinia, you will see pockets of women of every age gathering every afternoon to share stories, to laugh, to eat together, sometimes even for hours. So, why does this matter so much for health? I have said this before, but what I have learned from all of the research that I've done, all of the science, the data out there, the number one most important factor for your health, more than sleep, more than nutrition, more than exercise, is connection. A massive meta analysis published in PLOS Medicine found that a lack of strong social relationships increase the risk of early death by 26%, which is about the same as if you were smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it's not even just about living longer and expanding your lifespan. Connection actually improves your quality of life and your current state of health too. Social interaction lowers cortisol, boosts oxytocin, and has been shown to improve immune function. Consistent, deep social connection basically trains the nervous system to get the message of, okay, we are safe, we are supported. That alone can shift you out of that chronic fight or flight mode that so many of us find ourselves in. And it's also one of the biggest things that is draining your health. And I guess one of my missions, I suppose, is to change this about wellness because in our mainstream wellness industry, like what we see on TikTok, what we think of as wellness, we have turned our well being, our quest for health into a solo sport. The way that we think of wellness is so individual. It's all about our own solo nighttime routine or morning routine. Wellness can also be super isolating. Like if you have to do a 10-step nighttime routine or you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, of course you're going to say no to going out with your friends at night. But if you are limiting your social interactions, if you are prioritizing a routine or a to-do list over joy, it is not healthy for you. What I want more of us to do is to see connection as the most important health routine that we have and prioritize it a lot more than we are. So every single day, have some kind of intentional, mindful connection. And I don't mean just like texting your group chat or watching a TV show with your significant other while eating dinner. I mean a form of connection that actually feels like it's deepening your relationships, like you feel the difference in your body. And these kind of moments of connection don't always need to be, some serious, deep heart to heart or like extensive time together. It could be calling your sister after work to hear how her day was. It could be eating lunch with a coworker instead of at your desk. It could be knocking on your neighbor's door just to say hi before heading out for the day. Even having, small talk with a new neighbor, chatting with the barista that you see every time you visit the coffee shop while you're waiting for your coffee to be ready. Even just spending a few minutes laughing with a coworker can have measurable benefits for your health. Research from the University of Chicago found that even brief interactions with strangers can increase feelings of belonging and happiness for the rest of the day. These things might feel really small, but they're one of those add up over time habits. Like it will make a massive difference in the long term. And also, bonus, when you're consistently on a daily basis connecting, you're not just improving your health, you are strengthening someone else's too. And all of the research shows this. When your community is healthy, you are healthy, which, if we're talking about the healthiest women in the world, is exactly the point. They're not just living long lives, they are making those lives rich with connection and strong social bonds. Okay, next tip. The healthiest women in the world drink tea or herbal infusions every day. Before you come for me, I am not saying to give up your coffee. I am not a monster. But if you swap your second cup of coffee or you just add in a tea as a little afternoon treat, you can have measurable benefits to your health. Having some type of tea or herbal infusion every day is a practice that you will find among the healthiest populations in the world. And according to research, it is one of the healthiest daily habits that you could possibly implement. In Sardinia, women drink wild rosemary tea daily, which is packed with antioxidants and compounds that are shown to improve circulation and protect brain health. In Icaria, Greece, they brew herbal teas from literally whatever is growing around them: sage, oregano, chamomile. The health benefits from tea is impressive. One study in therapeutic advances in psychopharmacology found that even just the aroma of rosemary from a rosemary tea could improve cognitive performance immediately. Lemon balm has been shown to reduce anxiety and improve mood. Mint aids digestion, reduces bloating, and works as an anti inflammatory. So, especially if you are using this to swap your second cup of coffee, you're getting that warm, ritualistic drink that feels really good, especially as we're going into fall and winter. But you're also getting a dose of phytonutrients and keeping your stress hormones in check. So, here are some tips. Use fresh herbs whenever possible instead of just relying on tea bags. A really powerful tea that I love to DIY is I will buy these like frozen ginger cubes. You can find them in Trader Joe's and just add one of those little cubes with mint leaves to hot water. And you get this super fresh, delicious ginger mint tea with all of these amazing benefits. Even just tossing a sprig of rosemary into hot water can feel so amazing and luxurious. You can add a slice of lemon to any teas to boost vitamin C and get a little added flavor in there. You can add raw honey for antioxidant and anti inflammatory benefits. Drinking a loose leaf tea is another great option for using really powerful medicinal plants that you might not have access to fresh at the store. But of course, if that's not available, having organic, I mean, there's some research that's come out about certain toxins that could be in tea bags. So loose leaf is just better, but leaning towards organic tea when you can is also a good option as well. So don't get too fixated on it. And then get to know what kind of teas are best for your health goals or even better at different times of day. So, for example, I love having a mint tea after dinner because it helps with digestion and it's also very soothing and calming. So, it will help me sleep at night. I drink a red raspberry leaf tea before and during my period to help ease symptoms. And I love a dandelion root tea before and after drinking alcohol to support my liver health. Since it's currently still hot out, I love turning any of these teas into an iced tea. I just brew it ahead of time and put it in the fridge. And it's this like refreshing, amazing drink, but it's packed with so many amazing nutrients. So, yes, adding in a daily tea is such a small, simple thing to do, but this is exactly how the healthiest women in the world would approach wellness. There are little micro adjustments that add up over decades. So if you love to have a little sweet treat in the afternoon, like if you like to get a coffee and you want to replace that with a tea, it will turn your afternoon ritual from a potential caffeine spike turn to afternoon slump into a brain boosting, digestion supporting, hormone friendly, antioxidant packed little moment for you. The fourth habit is purpose driven micro tasks. You've heard me talk about ikigai before. It's translates roughly to your reason for being, your purpose. In Okinawa, it is not just a concept, it's a lifestyle. It is so deeply implemented into the daily routine and culture. And here's the important thing that we can learn from them. Purpose isn't only found in the big life changing moments, it is built in the small daily actions that we choose. This is where purpose driven microtasks come in. They are tiny intentional acts that connect you to your bigger why. In the healthiest living populations in the world, purpose is woven into everyday routines. It's in tending to a garden, cooking for your family, fixing a neighbor's fence. Purpose is a part of everything, of the little things, not just the big life changing moments. A study from the Journal of the American Medical Association found that people with a higher sense of purpose had a 33% lower risk of death from all causes. And the wild part, that benefit held even when researchers accounted for physical health, income, and education level, which means purpose alone was protective. Another study in psychosomatic medicine found that living with purpose is linked to better immune function, reduced inflammation, and even healthier gene expression. The biohacking world also actually really embraces this idea, but they phrase it differently. They talk about high value activities that align with your core mission. What this really means is that instead of waiting for motivation or waiting for, a career that feels super purpose driven or waiting for your aha moment or destiny or whatever it is that we talk about when we think of purpose. The healthiest people in the world engineer small daily actions to keep their identity on track. So here's how it can look in real life. If your purpose is nurturing others, maybe a micro task every day is texting one friend words of encouragement. If your purpose is creativity, it's spending 10 minutes every single day sketching or writing something rather than waiting until you have time. If it's creativity, maybe it's spending 5 to 10 minutes every single day sketching or writing without worrying about if it's good, rather than waiting until we have time to finally get to working on the art project or doing the hobby that we want, because we all know we never going to have the time. So it's building out 5 minutes every single day to do that. If your purpose is environmental activism, maybe you pick up a couple pieces of trash on your morning walk. That in itself is enough to stay connected to your purpose for major impact. Like, I promise you, these micro tasks, they take 5 minutes, 1 minute, but they make a huge difference to your brain. What these micro habits are doing is reinforcing the neural pathways connected to your identity, which then strengthens your motivation. So, in other words, every single small action you take is a step toward the person that you authentically are. So, you want to make sure that your micro tasks, your tiny little things that you can do every single day, align with your deeper why, your purpose, your authenticity, who you are meant to be. And here's the really good news, because I think when we talk about a life aligned with purpose, people feel overwhelmed because they're like, well, my 9 to 5 isn't in line with my purpose, or I need to have all this extra time outside of work to start a side hustle or to volunteer. I don't have the time to do that or to overhaul my life. You do not need to change your life so drastically to live in line with your purpose. You just need to choose one small aligned action every single day. Think of it like identity maintenance. You're keeping your purpose alive in the little things every single day rather than waiting for the big things to come along. The fifth daily habit of the healthiest woman in the world is 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio is that sweet spot where your heart rate is speeding up a little bit, you're working, but you're still able to hold a conversation. You're not completely out of breath. Think of it like brisk walking or very light jogging, light biking, things like that. Yes, there are lots of benefits to really challenging your body as long as you're doing it in a really intentional and safe way. But I do think it's really interesting. We have this idea of no pain, no gain in our fitness world. Like, a workout has to be super intense or 60 minutes in order to count. But the healthiest people in the world, both, by the way, the longest living populations and also biohackers, actually most often engage in this zone 2 cardio. Research shows that it is one of the most important types of movement for everything from fat loss to longevity. And why this is because zone 2 targets your mitochondria, which is a part of your cells that convert food and oxygen into energy. It basically keeps your body running. A study in Frontiers in Physiology linked regular zone 2 activity with reduced risk of metabolic disorders, improved insulin sensitivity, and better fat oxidation, aka your body's ability to use fat for fuel and burn fat. In the blue zones, they're not going to a 60-minute berries boot camp class. Instead, it's this long, steady movement built into the day. They're walking up the hills to the market, they're carrying groceries. That's all zone 2 cardio. From a biohacker perspective, zone 2 is like the easiest and best thing that you can do for metabolic flexibility. It's gentle enough that it won't spike your cortisol levels, which can have a negative impact on your health, but it's consistent enough and challenging enough to remodel your cardiovascular system. Longevity doctor Peter Attia calls zone 2 cardio the single most valuable exercise for health span and recommends about 2 to 4 hours per week. There's also the human biologist and biohacker Gary Brecka, who recommends the 30-30-30 method, which includes 30 minutes of brisk walking after eating 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up. He says that this is the most effective method for healthy weight management and weight loss. So, an amazing daily habit that can transform your life and your body is just 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio every day. Go for a brisk walk, hop on a bike or elliptical, go at an easy pace while you listen to a podcast, go for a super light jog, do a little treading water while you're in the ocean or the pool for 30 minutes instead of just sitting on the beach. If you can chat comfortably and carry on a conversation, but you still feel like you're working, you are in zone 2. The healthiest women in the world are not completely maxing out and going crazy on every workout every day. They are mastering consistency at a pace that their bodies can thrive on. This next tip is more of a biohack, but it is really interesting because we see this almost like inherently and naturally mirrored in a lot of the longest living populations in the world. And that tip is eating earlier in the day and giving your body a longer overnight break from food. In blue zones, the largest meal of the day is often around the mid to late morning or early afternoon. In Sardinia, that might look like a huge, delicious, hearty lunch of a bunch of vegetables, beans, some bread and olive oil, followed by a much lighter dinner or even just a snack in the evenings. In Okinawa, it's very similar. Dinner is small, simple, and it's often a lot earlier in the evening. Modern science calls this time restricted eating, essentially eating your meals in a specific earlier window, usually finishing dinner about 2 to 3 hours before bed and then avoiding late night snacking. The benefits of this are really amazing. This is really cool because your metabolism follows your circadian rhythm, that same internal clock that tells you when to sleep and when to be awake. That clock also tells you when to process food. In the morning and early afternoon, your insulin sensitivity is higher, your digestive enzymes are more active, and your body is primed to use food as energy throughout the day. By evening, your metabolism will slow down, your insulin sensitivity will drop, and that exact same meal that might have been, no problem, gave you no symptoms at 1 p.m., can store blood sugar or might even more likely be stored as fat by 9 p.m. A 2019 study found that people who ate within an earlier 8 to 10 hour window had improved blood sugar control, reduced blood pressure, and better appetite regulation compared to those who ate the exact same calories over a longer, later window. Another trial in nutrition and healthy aging found that early time restricted eating improved fat oxidation, which again, it's not changing what the participants ate, they just changed when they ate it. And that made a huge difference. Another benefit of this lighter meal in the evening and eating earlier is your sleep. Late night eating can interfere with melatonin production, which means you could have like a really shitty night's sleep. You could wake up consistently, you could have some trouble falling asleep. If you've ever gone to bed feeling exhausted, but somehow still a little bit wired and having trouble sleeping, it could be because your body was still working to digest that 9 p.m. snack. I also like to think of it like it intuitively makes sense for what our bodies need. If you think about cavemen, how we evolved, they were hunting and gathering during the day, and at night, you couldn't see anything. You couldn't be hunting and gathering. So they would sleep for most of the dark hours, and then they would eat during the light hours. Like that is so simple, but that is what our bodies are meant to do. So you can apply this to your life in any small adjustments that might work for you. Again, the last thing I want is for you to get stressed out about this and be like, oh my God, the sun's already set, but I'm going to dinner with friends. Should I push it earlier? No, don't worry about it. If you're really hungry at 9 p.m., have yourself a healthy snack. Like, do not panic about this. This is not to add pressure. This is maybe just to start making small tweaks that might benefit your body more. Something I like to do whenever I can is just to eat when it's light out and then to stop when it's dark. It's super simple. It feels really intuitive to how our bodies have evolved. Of course, if I'm going out with friends, if I'm on vacation, if I have a super busy day and don't get to dinner until later at night, it's no big deal. I don't stress about it. This is just like on my everyday. If I can make that change, I do. If that feels really hard for you, either you like eating later or you love your post dinner snack, you don't get to dinner until it's dark for whatever reason, don't stress about it. Maybe that just means having a lighter meal, having a really warm, delicious soup or stew, and then making sure you're having a heavier meal where you're getting in more protein, fats, carbohydrates, all the things for breakfast and lunch. Not only does this align with your circadian biology, but it also will give you more energy during the time of day where you need more energy. We obviously don't need a lot of energy at night. The purpose of dinner, biologically speaking, like just from a physiological standpoint, is just to stabilize our glucose levels throughout the night and to provide enough nutrients for basic functioning like breathing, our organs, things like that. We don't need fuel for more energy, more brain power, for movement like we do earlier in the day. Another way to apply this to your life is just to have a cutoff time of about 3 hours before you go to sleep. So you just make sure that whatever you're digesting doesn't impact your sleep. So if you have a late night, depending on your schedule, whatever it is, and you're going to bed at 1 a.m., just make sure that the cutoff is 10 p.m. That's right math, right? Yeah, that's 3 hours. That's another great way to apply this to your life. I know in modern life, this can be really tricky. You've got dinner plans, maybe you're working late and you can't get to dinner until later. So please do not think of this as a rigid rule. Remember that the second it starts stressing you out, it is no longer wellness. Think of it instead as just like a default setting. Most days, just aim to have your last full meal a few hours before bed. If you do eat later, make it something very light and easy to digest, maybe some fruit. But if you're on vacation, if you're out with your friends, or you're starving at 9 p.m., please listen to your body first and foremost. It will serve you so much more than these little biohacks, I swear. The last daily habit of the healthiest woman in the world that I'm going to share today is forest bathing in mini doses. If you've ever stepped in a park or in nature, or even just stepped outside of your home and instantly felt calmer, you have experienced a little bit of the magic of forest bathing. Forest bathing doesn't actually involve a literal bath, although doesn't that sound kind of amazing? I don't know. Now that I think about it, would I want to take a bath in the woods? Probably not. It sounds relaxing in concept. In practice, do I think I would like it? No. What we say is, I am outsidey, not outdoorsy. I like an Aperol spritz on a patio. I like to sit outside and read. I do not like to camp and likely, therefore, will not like to bathe in woods. I would like to bathe in a bathroom with bubble bath, a candle, a glass of wine. Anyway, back on track. Forest bathing is not actual bathing. It just means immersing yourself in nature, walking, breathing deeply, noticing the sights, the smells, the sounds all around you, feeling metaphorically bathed in nature. This term forest bathing comes from a Japanese phrase which translates to taking in the forest atmosphere or forest bath. It was coined in 1982 by Japan's Ministry of Agriculture as part of a national public health program. This is really cool. At the time, back in the 80s, Japan was experiencing rising stress-related illnesses linked to urbanization and long work hours. So the government began promoting forest bathing as a preventative health practice, and it worked. After this concept of forest bathing was introduced and really implemented in Japanese culture, the Japanese government partnered with universities and research institutes to measure its effects, and over decades of studies, they found consistent, measurable effects like lower cortisol production, better blood pressure and heart rate, better immune function. One study even showed the immune supporting effects lasted for days and in some cases up to a week after a single forest bathing session. And also mood improvements, including significantly low rates of anxiety, fatigue, and depression. A major study from Japan's Chiba University found that spending just 20 minutes in a forest lowered cortisol by up to 16%. It reduced heart rate. It boosted parasympathetic nervous system activity, which is the part of your nervous system that helps you rest, digest, and heal. Another study in environmental health and preventative medicine showed that even 2 hours in nature increased natural killer cell activity, which are immune cells that help fight viruses, and even tumor formation, meaning these are the cells that are fighting cancer tumors. And that this boost in immunity lasted up to weeks after one forest bathing session. So in Japan, forest bathing proved to be so successful that apparently there are now official forest therapy bases integrated into the healthcare system as preventative health. From a biohacking perspective, forest bathing is about nervous system regulation and sensory recalibration. Our modern environments are so full of artificial light, constant noise, constant stimulation, man made smells, which all of these things keep our bodies in a constant low grade stress response. What nature does is it offers a complete sensory reset. There's natural light that balances your circadian rhythm. Plant compounds boost your immune function even just by breathing them in. And there are fractal patterns that calm the visual system, aka just looking at plants, at nature, at lakes, ponds can actually calm you down. Urban environments, again, this artificial light, environmental pollutants, anything artificial, aka my whole world that I live in a city like LA, are full of positive ions coming from pollution, electronics, artificial environments, artificial light. These radiate these positive ions. Some researchers believe that this contributes to higher stress levels, fatigue, irritability, and maybe even chronic disease or illness. Nature is rich in negative ions, which are believed to interact with the human nervous system by increasing serotonin levels, improving mood, and lowering stress. A review in Frontiers in Public Health found that exposure to negative ions was associated with reduced symptoms of depression, better sleep, and lower physiological stress markers. So, forest bathing, being in nature, is one of the most powerful forms of medicine that we have access to. And you don't need to live in a pristine forest to reap the benefits. Research found that 120 minutes a week in any green space, a park, a backyard, was associated with better physical and mental health. That's just 17 minutes a day, which is why I call it forest bathing in microdoses. And again, it's not about exercising or hiking. It's about mindfully immersing yourself in a nature setting, using all of your senses to connect with nature. And the key here is presence. You can't just power walk through a park while you're checking your emails. You also might not really want to, even be listening to this podcast while you're walking around trying to get your forest bathing in, okay? It's all about using your senses to immerse yourself in the scents, the sounds, the sights of nature. Even for some added benefits, if you can't get in nature anywhere, you don't have access, bring nature to you. You can get benefits just by keeping plants in your home. Keep a plant on your desk. Sit by an open window to get the natural light. Use more natural materials in your home. Even looking just at photos of nature has been shown in studies to lower stress markers. Something called earthing or grounding takes this concept just a step further. Earthing or grounding means getting in physical contact with the earth. So, walking barefoot on natural surfaces like grass or sand connects you directly to the Earth's surface electrons. A few small but very intriguing studies suggest that this direct contact can reduce inflammation, improve sleep, and balance cortisol rhythms. You can also get these benefits. Again, it's like anytime you come in contact with the earth. So if you're swimming in the lake or an ocean, if you're taking a walk on the beach or lying in the grass, relaxing on the sand, anytime you are coming in contact with or surrounded by nature. So forest bathing is one of the simplest, most low effort habits on this list, but the payoff is absolutely insane. I think it's also interesting. Again, this is coming from someone who, like I called myself, outsidey, not outdoorsy. I don't love to be hiking around. I don't want to go camping. But it still is really interesting when we think about we have all these forest reserves where we're helping animals find nature because we know that them being in city settings or without a lot of nature is damaging to their species. And it's almost interesting because, like, we forget that we are also animals too. We also need nature as our medicine in order to survive. The healthiest women in the world are not under fluorescent lights 24/7. They use nature as a powerful medicine. They're connected to the natural rhythms around them. And even in a busy, urban, technology driven life, you can carve out a few minutes every day or every week to do the same. That's it for part 2 of the daily habits of the healthiest women in the world. We have officially added even more tools to your wellness toolbox, from the 80% rule to swapping your afternoon coffee with something that's going to love your hormones back, to identity maintenance, finding your purpose in the tiniest of daily actions. Now, here's where you come in, okay? I want to know, which of these habits are you actually going to try this week? Screenshot this episode, share it to your Instagram stories. I want to see if you're having tea, if you're forest bathing. I want to see it all. And then tag me with what you're sharing, what you're trying, what parts of the episode resonated with you. I will be reposting some of my favorites because I love seeing how you bring these tips to real life. Like that, as you know, is literally why I do what I do. It is the coolest thing to get to see how you guys make these tips your own and how you apply them to your life. And if you learned something today, if you felt that little, oh, wow, I needed this tip in my life, or I can't wait to try this, it would mean the world if you took just 30 seconds to leave a review. You submitting a review is the best way to support our show so that we can reach more women who want to live their very best, fullest lives. Plus, you know that I actually read every single one. And yes, I have been known to happy cry over them. So please do it for me. Leave a review, leave a comment on Spotify. Let me know if this episode resonated with you, if you want more like this. Also, if you have that friend who is like the wellness guru of your friend group or who wants to be, text them this episode. You never know, you might start your own little blue zone right where you are. All right, go take your walk, brew your tea, call your best friend. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And I will see you back on Thursday for more ways to live your happiest, healthiest, fullest, best life. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.